In this video, we'll be going over the continuation of the C# video tutorials, so csharp.net. So this is just from where we left off in the playlist. So this is just finding the classes and their responsibilities in a program. So finding the classes and their responsibilities in a program. So pretty much this is just, there's not much coding in this at all. It's just some theory stuff. So I'm just going to be talking. I didn't even write this out. So when developing an object-oriented program, you need to identify the classes that you will need to create. One simple and popular technique involves the following steps. So get a written description of the problem domain. Identify all the nouns, including pronouns and noun phrases in the description. Each of these is a potential class. So refine the list to include only the classes that are relevant in the problem. Once the classes have been identified, you need to identify each class's responsibilities. The responsibilities are the things that the class is responsible for knowing, the actions that the class is responsible for doing. So for example, we could pretend that we have a customer car and service quote class. So the customer class has the following actions: create and initialize an object of the customer class. Get and set the customer's name, address, and phone number. Telephone or cell phone number, whatever. Maybe like a house phone versus a cell phone, landline versus a work phone, whatever. So the car has the following actions. The car class has the following actions. Create and initialize an object of the car class. Get and set the car's make, model, and year. So the next part is a service quote class has the following actions: create and initialize an object of the service quote class. Get and set the parts, charges, labor charges, sales tax rate, sales tax, and estimated whatever fees and charges. So that's just a little bit on theory. So now creating multiple forms in an object. So each project that has a form in a Visual C# or in a Visual C# form. Each project that has a form in Visual C# has a class. The default name of the form is Form1, and the class is also named Form, which is stored in the Form1.cs file. So every project that has a form in Visual C# has a class. So the default, I think I'm just repeating this. So the default name of the form is Form1. So that's what you usually see up here, for example. So just back on the screen, sorry. So we have here the class is Form1. It's always usually Form1. That's the default name. That's the default name of the form, so that's Form1. And its class is also named Form1, which is stored in the Form1.cs file. When you add additional forms to a project, you add additional classes which are stored in their own files. So when you create, sorry for the blank out, so I was just going to read this again. So when you add additional forms to a project, you add additional classes. So we've done that before, so we just did that recently. We created a new class recently. So that was in the playlist as well, within the last few videos when we started classes and objects. So when you create an event handler for a specific form's controls, you write them as methods in the forms class. So we've done that. So to display a form in your application, you need to create an instance of the forms class. So we will be doing some examples of this later on. So you can just display a form like when you want to, like another form. Okay, so to do that, we haven't really done that yet. We will. So you don't just need one. Like, of course, sometimes you don't just have one form. You want to have more than one window pop up. For example, I don't know, like you'll have one window pop up, and then sometimes you'll see like another window pop up for like would you like to subscribe to these products as well, or would you like to download these products or something else? You have some kind of other, like if you've seen Windows apps, it's usually like you have an app that tells you to install. When you click install, sometimes another form pops up, or you may have a reason to create another form. So to do that, so let's just maybe delete this stuff here. That's from arrays, class object arrays, and list objects. So we could go with here, for example, so displaying a form. So to display a form, so for example, we could just go error. So let's say pretend we have a form named error form. So we could say error form points a new error form with parentheses and a semicolon. So basically the above code declares a reference variable named error form, and that creates an object of the error form class in memory and assigns a reference to the object to the my error form variable. So basically, let's just say what this does. So this declares a reference variable named error form. So that's an object reference variable. I don't know why these docs say reference variable. It's an object reference variable. So maybe perhaps you can also say that a reference variable is an object reference variable. I just think of them as an object reference variable because I'm going to get confused if I'm thinking of like a variable, which isn't a reference variable. It's just a variable, so that can get confusing. So if I'm thinking of an object and a reference variable, then I'm just going to say that it's an object reference variable. So this declares an object reference variable named error form. Now then it creates an object. So it creates an object or instantiate. So it creates / instantiates. Creates / instantiates an object of the error form class in memory and assigns a reference to the object to the error form variable. So after creating the instance, you could use a show dialog method to display the form. So for example, we could say error form dot show dialog. So we could say dot show dialog like that. I think we've used that before, but pretty much, yeah, I think we have when we did the form load lab. So pretty much show dialog just pops up the form on your screen, or the app pretty much. So we'll just make a note here that the show dialog method displays a form on the screen, and it gives that form of the focus. So remember, just like a window is called a form in the Microsoft Docs. So a form is just like a Windows pop-up. So you can accessing control on a different form. So controls provided by the .NET framework have private access by default. This means that a control that exists on a particular form can be accessed only by code that is written in that form's class. So this means that a control that exists on a particular form can be accessed only by the code written in that form's class. So everything's pretty much encapsulated and privatized to make it secure. So you can change the access of a control by changing its modifiers property and the properties window. So you could do it that way, or you could just code it. So that's one way to do it. So if you change a control modifier's property to public, the control can be accessed by code outside the forms class, which could make your app less secure and all that. So just be careful. So accessing control accessing controls on a different form. For example, suppose the greetings form has, so pretend we have a form named greetings form, has a label control named message label, and the message label controls modifiers property has been set to public. The following code shows how you can create an instance of the greeting form, assign a value to the message label controls text property, and display the form. Okay, so that's just a bunch of confusing stuff. So we're going to create, okay, so it's not that confusing, but saying it in a bunch of words like that might be. So let's just break it down. So the following, so basically the code will show how to create an object of the greetings form, then assign a value to the message label controls text property, then display the form. Okay, so let's just do that. So we'll just go, for example, greetings form or greeting form. Pretend we have a form named, we have a form or a class named greeting form. That's like a form, and we could say greeting form like that. Points to new greeting form. Then we could say greeting form dot message label dot text points to good day or whatever, good night, I don't know, something whatever like that. Good night, I don't know, good night pumpkin, or good night honey or something, I don't know, just like a pun like that. Okay, so here we could go greeting form, for example. So what this actually is doing is that we're accessing a class from a different file. So in that case, you just use the dot operator to chain it to whatever control you want to access with the property that you want to access with another chain or method, whatever. So you have to just call the class first. You may have seen me do this here and there. I've definitely done this in Java before. I may have done this recently when we started classes and objects in C#. .NET, but pretty much we're just accessing the form here, the form object. Then to access the form object's instance data and pretty much its fields, methods, and all that, you have to use the dot operator. So you can also do that in Python. Most languages you can do it like that. So even like non-object oriented, or basically Python, it can be, but it's not 100%. But you basically can just do that in different languages. And here, for example, we could say greeting form.show dialog, so we could then show the form on the screen or whatever. Okay, so model and model-less forms. So a model form or dialog box must be closed or hidden before you can continue working with the rest of the app. When a model form is displayed, no other forms in the application can receive the focus until the model form is closed. So it's a different spelling. I think it's the right spelling. It's model spelled like that, but not with an E, but with an A. So a model list form allows the user to switch focus to another form while it is displayed. So we'll just go over that. Model form or dialog box must be closed or hidden before you can continue working with the rest of the app. Okay, so then now model list form allows the user to switch focus to another form while it is displayed. The user does not have to close a model list form to switch focus to another form. So we'll be talking about that in the notes. Don't worry if that's kind of confusing. We'll try to do a lab on that later on. We'll be going over some more docs about all this stuff. So don't worry if you're confused about anything. So in a model form statement, so the statement next to the show dialog method will not execute until the model form is closed. So some of the code won't execute until the form is closed. So in a model list form statement next to the show dialog method, for example, so if we had like some code here. Okay, so let's try to describe this. So in a model, so just take a step back here. So in a model form, the statement next to the show dialog method will not execute until the model form is closed. Okay, so I believe if we have some code, some of the code won't be executed until the form is closed. And a model list form, statements next to the show dialog, so pretend we have some statements below the show dialog method like this. So let's just say we had show dialog here, like that. We had like here code, code, code. And pretty much this code here wouldn't get executed until the form is closed for a model form. But in a model list form, the statements below the show dialog method will execute immediately after the model form is displayed, so it's kind of like the opposite. Okay, so that'll pretty much just wrap up the notes. If you're confused, don't worry. So we'll continue some actual proper labs with actual apps that run, not just code like notes, like code and notes. So I'll actually make some real apps here. So coming up, so to practice these concepts, so that'll be coming up in the playlist in csharp.net on my channel. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys like the video, you can like and subscribe to support the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. Do stop by the playlist for this language, csharp.net, or for any other languages such as Java, C programming, Python, Linux, Android. I haven't uploaded the videos, but also we'll be starting JavaScript. So a massive JavaScript tutorial will be coming up with HTML and CSS. So do stop by. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Thanks.